The City and the City by China Miéville has one of the most interesting and weird settings in recent memory. The twin cities of Bégel and Olcoma, except instead of these twin cities simply existing in close geographical proximity to each other, they actually overlap. The borders between the two cities are woven into each other. You can find buildings in Bégel neighbored by buildings in Olcoma and vice versa. Certain streets exist in both cities, but have different names depending on if the street is considered to be in Bégel or in Olcoma. So why are they even considered two different cities? Aren't they just the same city? You would think so, except that there's a strange law in the twin cities that people who are in Bégel must not interact with anything that is in Olcoma and vice versa. The law is so strict that supposedly if you're in Bégel and are caught gazing at a person or a landmark who is in Olcoma, then that's supposedly enough to constitute an illegal breach of the city's borders. This law is enforced by the mysterious and powerful organization known as Breach, who disappear anyone who unlawfully crosses the border between both of the cities. So even though Bégel and Olcoma buildings and landmarks are right next to each other, and even though Bégel and Olcoma citizens walk right by each other in the streets, everyone in the twin cities is constantly pretending that they aren't right next to each other. Bégel and Olcoma residents and infrastructure is supposedly distinguishable by differences in architectural and fashion styles, and citizens of the twin cities learn the skill of unseeing, recognizing at a glance what they're not supposed to be looking at, and then totally ignoring it to the point where it may as well not exist for them. The culture of unseeing and not interacting with the counterparts in the other city is so ingrained into the society of the twin cities that even though an outside observer would earnestly tell you that everyone is in only one city, that treating this place as two places is absolutely absurd, it kind of is functionally two cities, simply because that's what the people who live there treat it as. The book explores the twin cities through the eyes of Inspector Borlu, a detective who has lived in the city of Bégel his whole life and is forced to confront the borders between the cities when he is assigned to the case of a murdered woman. All evidence seems to suggest that she was murdered in Olcoma, but that the body was dumped in Bégel. It's a pretty straightforward murder mystery whodunit story, and if that's all the book had to offer, then it would still be fun in the same way that an episode of a murder mystery TV show is fun and worth a recommendation to fans of that genre. But what elevates this novel is that it uses that murder mystery story as the driving vehicle to explore this setting. Borlu's investigation takes him on an adventure through both cities, as there is one legal border crossing where Breach allows people to cross from one city to the other. Through his eyes, we witness the function, philosophy, and politics of the twin cities, and in my opinion, exploring this setting is the main appeal of the novel, and I was very satisfied with the panorama of the twin cities that this novel provides. The City and the City has an incredibly intelligent and refreshing approach to its setting in this way. For all intents and purposes, it's set in the real world, with the exception that the twin cities themselves are fictional. Despite having no mythical creatures, fantasy races, aliens, magic, advanced technology, nor even the sniff of anything supernatural, I find the twin cities to be a far more interesting and bizarre setting than that of most fantasy and sci-fi stories I've read recently. For me, this novel reignited the joy that I used to feel when exploring fantasy and sci-fi settings as a teenager, back when those two genres were new and fresh to me, and it made me want to seek out more novels that explore unique fictional places. If simply hearing me describe the setting of this novel is enough to have you intrigued, then you should absolutely pick up this book. If you typically enjoy urban fiction that is about giving a panoramic view of urban settings, then you'll definitely enjoy this one. If you're a fan of murder mystery stories, then this is one of the stranger stories out there that you will most likely enjoy. However, if you're not intrigued by the setting and you don't also typically enjoy urban fiction or murder mysteries, cities, then there's not much else that this novel has to offer that you can't get better elsewhere. So if you choose to seek this book out, I encourage you to try finding it at a local library, local independent bookstore, or using one of the online retailers that I recommend, a list of which you can find in the description. That's the review, and now I want to try something new for this channel. This is the first video in a planned series called You Should Read, which is a series of short, spoiler-free recommendation videos. But I'm also planning on starting a companion series called Book Club. Book Club will essentially be my more detailed thoughts about the novel covered in You Should Read, complete with full story spoilers. However, I also want to give you all the chance to read the novel beforehand and share your thoughts. If you've read The City and the City, then please give me your thoughts in the comment section of this video, or send them to my business email with the subject line Book Club, The City and the City. In addition to my own more detailed thoughts about the novel, I will also feature the most interesting thoughts and opinions that I get sent, as well as offer some friendly discussion in response. I want to give everyone who sees this video in January a chance to acquire and read the novel for themselves and to submit feedback. So my current plan is to release the companion book club video for The City and the City in either April or early May. So I'll make the cutoff to send in your feedback the 10th of April to give enough time for people who need to get the novel shipped to them, or who might be busy and not have that much time they can spend reading every day, or who are just slow readers like me. Your comments can be just a sentence, a paragraph, or several paragraphs, depending on what you want to say. Now, depending on the volume of comments and the type of feedback I get submitted, I may not feature everyone's comments, so please don't write very long and detailed analyses, only because I don't want anyone to put a huge amount of effort into something that I end up not featuring in the companion video. I will be selecting the comments that get featured myself, so this should go without saying, but I'll say it anyway. I won't be featuring any comments that contain abuse, bigotry, harmful misinformation, or any other kind of unpleasantness. Absolutely feel free to criticize the novel if you didn't like it. That won't disqualify your comment from being featured, but you know, just be mindful that this is a casual book reading series and that comes with a certain vibe. If you would like your thoughts to be anonymized for any reason, then send them to my business email shown on screen and listed in the description, and specify at the beginning of your message that you would like to remain anonymous. Is this going to be a regular thing? Yes, my current plan is to release one You Should Read per month for at least the next few months, and then also release the companion book club videos around 3 to 4 months after the counterparts have been released. So you can expect a second You Should Read in February and in March, and then in April you should hopefully get both a You Should Read and the first book club video, which will be on The City and the City. So if you would like to join in but can't commit to reading a book in the next couple of months for whatever reason, or if my recommendation didn't make it sound like the book was for you, don't worry about it, because there will hopefully be plenty of opportunities to join in the coming year. Is this replacing your video essays? No, I still plan on releasing long video essays, hopefully at least one this year, in fact. However, video essays are notoriously difficult to get done in a timely fashion, especially for small creators like me. So this is my attempt at trying to create smaller content that I can reliably release more frequently. It's also a great way to feature all the books I read that I would love to recommend to you all, but that I don't necessarily want to make a 30-minute to an hour-long video about. I also just love recommending books to people. My favorite part of this channel is honestly hearing that people have read a book based on my recommendation and enjoyed it, so this series is my way of hopefully making that happen more often. How will patrons be charged for these videos? My patrons won't be charged for any of my You Should Read videos before April. However, starting in April, when the first book club video releases, I will be switching my Patreon from charging per video to charging per month. And the Patreon will then be funding all the content on my channel, including my longer video essays, which I will be working on in the background. I've never been comfortable charging per month, considering that my videos release so infrequently, but assuming I am able to sustain this series, and I'm I'm reasonably confident that I am, I'll be much more comfortable charging per month. That being said, I realize that the switch from per video to per month is a significant change, so I'm announcing it now several months in advance of when it actually happens to give patrons plenty of time to decide if they want to change their support based on the new plan. What kinds of books will you feature in this series? You'll just have to wait and find out. See you in February.